15 years into our marriage, my wife opted for her boss over me. When she proposed an open marriage, I chose divorce, securing the house and custody of our children. My wife, Emma, and I had shared 15 years of what I believed was a solid partnership. We have 2 kids, Sophie, 13, and Liam, 10, and I genuinely thought we were content. Emma is employed at a corporate firm where she's worked for nearly 3 years. Her manager, David, is a man in his early 40s, married with kids of his own. 2 weeks ago, Emma returned home from work acting oddly, clearly preoccupied. I noticed her checking her phone more often, smirking at messages, as though sharing a secret with someone. When I asked if she was okay, she brushed it off, claiming exhaustion from work, but her tone carried a nervous edge I hadn't heard before. Last Tuesday, after the kids were asleep, she asked to talk in our living room. My heart sank, fearing someone had passed or she was unwell, as her hands trembled and she toyed with her wedding ring. Taking a deep breath, she said she'd been reflecting on our marriage, feeling we'd drifted apart, and suggested we explore opening our relationship. I was stunned, my mind reeling. When I pressed her on what she meant, she admitted having feelings for someone else and proposed we both pursue other relationships while staying married. Her vague mention of someone else made me suspect her boss, David, given how often she'd mentioned him lately. When I asked if it was David, she got defensive, insisting the person's identity didn't matter. It was about our marriage and our happiness. But her flushed face and inability to meet my gaze confirmed my suspicions. I told her I wasn't open to her idea, and that if she wanted someone else, we should end our marriage. She backpedaled, insisting she didn't want a divorce, loved me, and wanted our family intact. Yet she admitted she couldn't ignore her feelings. As she spoke, it felt like she'd already mapped out a plan to have both me and her new interest, balancing everything to her advantage. She kept emphasizing we could set rules and boundaries, claiming many couples thrive this way. But I could only think of how Sophie and Liam would feel if they learned their mother was seeing someone else while married to me. When I asked if she'd been physical with this person, she denied it, but her hesitation made me doubt her. The conversation dragged on for 2 hours, leaving me drained and confused. Emma was in tears, saying she never meant for this to happen and only wanted us both to be fulfilled. But to me, it seemed like she was seeking approval to betray me without repercussions. I told her I needed time to process, and she said she understood, hugging me and expressing hope that I'd consider her proposal. That night, sleep eluded me as I lay staring at the ceiling, replaying our relationship for signs I'd missed. The next morning, Emma acted as if nothing had happened, making breakfast for the kids and chatting about their schoolwork, as though our devastating talk never occurred. I couldn't focus at work, and a colleague noticed I looked unwell. I wanted to confide in someone but felt ashamed, as if I'd failed as a husband. That evening, Emma made my favorite meal and was overly affectionate, touching my arm and laughing at trivial things. Her attempts to charm me felt manipulative and hollow, and I wanted to confront her. At dinner, Sophie asked why Mom was so happy, and Emma said she'd had a great day at work, which infuriated me because I knew the real reason. After the kids went to their rooms, she brought up the open marriage again, claiming she'd thought about it all day and believed it could enhance our bond. She showed me articles on her phone about successful open relationships, citing stats about couples who tried it and were happier. But all I could think was that she was already emotionally unfaithful and now wanted my blessing to take it further. I reiterated that I wouldn't agree to an open marriage and that pursuing someone else meant we'd have to part ways. She broke down, accusing me of being narrow-minded and unwilling to explore options. Then she said something that floored me. She thought I'd be more open because I'd always supported her career and ambitions. Equating her desire to be with her boss to a professional goal made me realize she was either delusional or thought I was naive. When I said I'd stay at a hotel 20 minutes away for a few days to think, she panicked, calling it an overreaction and urging more discussion. But I was done talking, as her words only confirmed her intentions. I packed a bag while she trailed me through the house, begging me not to leave and insisting we could resolve this if I let her explain better. She claimed she still loved me and nothing had changed, but I thought, if you truly love your spouse, you don't ask to be with others. The kids were upstairs doing homework, unaware their parents' marriage was crumbling. I kissed them goodnight, saying I had a short work trip, hating the lie but unable to tell them the truth. Sophie asked if everything was okay because Mom seemed upset, and I reassured her that Mom was just tired and things would be fine, though I doubted it. At the hotel, I felt like I was in a surreal nightmare. Sitting on the bed, I tried to process what had happened to my wife and family, wondering how long this had been brewing unnoticed. An hour after checking in, Emma knocked on my door. I saw her through the peephole, tears streaking her face, and let her in to avoid a scene. She launched into a speech about regretting bringing up the open marriage and not truly wanting it. But then she admitted she couldn't guarantee her feelings for this person would vanish. suggesting a compromise where she'd have an emotional connection with him, but remain physically loyal to me. I laughed bitterly, pointing out she was already having an emotional affair, and her compromise was no compromise. She grew angry, saying I was unfair and that she deserved credit for being honest rather than cheating secretly, which showed how warped her thinking had become. We argued for another hour, with her trying different angles to convince me this could work, each idea revealing she'd already chosen this man and was just trying to keep her comfortable life with me. I finally told her to leave and that I'd call her tomorrow about next steps. She sobbed, pleading not to lose me or the kids, but when I asked if she'd cut off non-work contact with David and switch departments, she called it unfair, saying she shouldn't have to sacrifice her career. That confirmed she'd chosen him over our marriage, and the rest was her attempt to have both. I'm writing this from the hotel, sleepless and lost. Part of me wants to save our marriage, but another believes it's already dead, and I'm just delaying the inevitable. I worry about Sophie and Liam, how this will impact them, and whether I should try for their sake, but I don't want them thinking this kind of relationship is healthy or normal. I'm seeking advice from those who've faced similar betrayals or can offer clarity. My life feels upended, and I'm struggling to find my bearings. 2. Months later. Thank you to everyone who commented and messaged with support. It meant the world during the hardest 2 months of my life. After my initial post, I stayed at the hotel for a week while Emma and I figured out our next steps. We had several talks with her pushing to save our marriage, but whenever I brought up cutting contact with David, she gave excuses about it being impractical or unjust. She said they worked too closely, that avoiding him would raise suspicions, and she couldn't risk her job. I told her she should have considered that before catching feelings for her married boss, but she called me cruel, saying no one controls who they fall for. I returned home because I missed Sophie and Liam, and long-term hotel stays weren't sustainable, but I made it clear we were separated, though under one roof. We told the kids Mom and Dad were having a tough time but loved them dearly. Their confusion and fear were palpable, even if they didn't fully understand. Emma tried to act normal, suggesting family outings like movie nights or dinners, but it all felt strained and awkward. I couldn't stop watching her for signs she was still in touch with David, hating how suspicious I'd become. She kept checking her phone and taking private calls, claiming it was work, but her defensiveness said otherwise. 3 weeks ago, Emma came home visibly shaken, and I sensed something had shifted. She was quiet during dinner, glancing at me as if wanting to speak but unsure how. After the kids were in bed, she asked to talk, and I braced for news that David had left his wife for her, expecting her to demand a divorce. Instead, she revealed she'd been fired from her job, and it took a moment to sink in. When I asked why, she broke down, admitting she'd made a mistake, and David had reported her to HR for inappropriate conduct. She said she'd tried discussing their relationship, but he rejected her, affirming his commitment to his marriage and deeming her advances unacceptable. It meant David had no interest in her, and she'd wrecked our marriage for someone who didn't want her. She'd thrown away our 15-year marriage for a delusion that was never real. I pressed for details on what she'd done to get fired, and she was evasive, but it seemed she'd confessed her feelings and proposed an affair. She kept sobbing about her terrible mistake, saying she now saw our family was worth more than a foolish infatuation, but I couldn't move past her willingness to destroy us for a man who was never an option. The past few weeks have been rough, as Emma grapples with unemployment and rejection, expecting me to comfort her through a mess she created. She keeps saying she can't believe she was so foolish and should have valued me. But her words feel more about David's rejection than losing our marriage. What stings is her calling me selfish for not supporting her through this. Last week, I went on a planned skiing trip with my brother, and when I returned, Emma was furious, saying I'd abandoned her when she needed me most. She called it heartless to enjoy myself while she dealt with job loss, claiming a true husband would have canceled to support his wife. I reminded her I was no longer her husband in any real sense, as she'd chosen another man, and I wasn't obligated to soothe her through her choice's fallout. She countered that my selfishness drove her to seek connection elsewhere, which infuriated me so much I had to walk away. The worst part is how our kids are being affected. Sophie asked why I wasn't kinder to Mom, who's clearly upset about her job loss, and Liam keeps asking if we're divorcing because a classmate's parents fought before splitting. Emma's been crying in front of them more, and it's taking a toll. Sophie confronted me yesterday, saying Mom told her she lost her job due to office drama and needs our support, confused by my coldness. I wanted to tell Sophie the truth about her mother's firing, but it'd be wrong to burden a 13-year-old. So I said adult relationships are complex, and I'm doing my best. But Sophie urged me to try harder, saying Mom's sorry for whatever she did and deserves a second chance. Hearing my daughter defend her mother and ask me to forgive her for trying to cheat was gut-wrenching. I know Sophie doesn't understand what she's asking, but it feels like everyone expects me to move on. Emma's now pushing for marriage counseling, saying she'll do anything to rebuild us, but I suspect it's only because her plan with David crashed. Had he reciprocated, I'm certain she'd have left me without a second thought, and now she wants me to act like nothing happened because I'm her fallback. I'm considering divorce but hesitant because of the kids. My brother says I should leave her as her actions are unforgivable, while my sister suggests counseling for the kids' sake. I'm stuck in limbo, unable to move forward or return to the past, and I need to decide soon, as this uncertainty isn't fair to anyone. I just wish I could tell if Emma's remorse is genuine or regret that her plan failed. 2 to 3 months later, I've delayed writing this because it makes everything feel too real, but I owe an update to those who've supported me. Your encouragement has been a lifeline when I felt like I was losing my mind. After my last post, I reflected deeply on the life I want for myself and my kids, deciding I couldn't stay in this state of resentment and doubt. Emma kept advocating for counseling and rebuilding stronger, but every talk felt like she was trying to erase something unforgettable. The final straw came a month ago when I discovered she was still contacting David after her firing. I found out by chance when her laptop, left open on the kitchen counter, pinged with a notification from an unfamiliar messaging app. I knew it was trouble, as she wouldn't use a separate app for friends or family. Opening it, I saw weeks of messages between her and David. I snapped photos with my phone for potential divorce proceedings. She was apologizing for the work incident, trying to convince him her feelings were real and worth exploring, while he repeatedly told her to stop and that he wasn't interested. What crushed me was her chasing him while swearing to me that he meant nothing, and she wanted our marriage. That night, I confronted her, and she initially denied it. When I showed her the messages, she crumbled, admitting she'd been trying to maintain some connection. She said she knew it was wrong but couldn't switch off her feelings, hoping closure with him would let her recommit to us. That's when I knew our marriage was done. She'd lost her job, faced divorce, yet still prioritized David over repairing things with me. I told her I was finished trying and would file for divorce. Her shock showed she truly thought I'd wait forever while she sorted her emotions. Last week, I met a divorce lawyer and started the process, informing Emma in person yesterday that I'd filed. I waited until the kids were at school, knowing she'd react emotionally and wanting to shield them. She broke down, begging me to reconsider, saying she'd do anything to save us and had been foolish to risk what we had. She insisted David meant nothing, blaming a midlife crisis, but now saw I was the only man for her. It pained me when she asked what she'd tell the kids about our family falling apart, her fear of explaining this to Sophie and Liam evident. I assured her we'd tell them together truthfully, without every detail. She pleaded to consider how this would affect the kids, suggesting a trial separation instead. But I reminded her we'd been separated for months, and nothing changed except her continued lies. I said I wanted our kids to see healthy relationships, and staying in a marriage where one partner tried to cheat wasn't a good model. The hardest moment was when she asked if there was anything she could do to sway me, her desperation raw. For a second, I wavered, seeing the woman I loved 15 years ago beneath the deceit. But I told her that woman wouldn't have done what she did, and I no longer knew who she was. She sobbed harder, saying, "People err, and marriage means forgiving through tough times." But I said her actions weren't a mistake, but a series of deliberate choices showing her true priorities. The talk lasted 3 hours, leaving us both spent. She asked if reconciliation was possible after she worked on herself and proved change. I said I couldn't envision trusting her again and wanted to focus on moving forward, not clinging to unlikely hopes. We haven't told the kids about the divorce yet, as we're still planning how to do it gently, and Emma hopes I'll relent if we delay. But I know waiting would worsen things, and Sophie and Liam deserve clarity, even if it's painful. The next 6 months will be tough as we navigate divorce, custody, and co-parenting. Yet, I feel I'm reclaiming my life, not just reacting to Emma's chaos. My lawyer believes the divorce should be straightforward as we agree on major points, though that could shift if Emma contests it. The kids will struggle, and I'm heartbroken they'll suffer for their mother's choices. But I believe they'll be better off long-term seeing parents in healthy dynamics, not us faking normalcy. I plan to start therapy to process this and ensure I handle divorce and co-parenting well. I never pictured myself a 38-year-old divorced dad, but I'm focusing on building a good life for me and my kids, not dwelling on shattered expectations. Thank you again for your support during this painful chapter. Several months later, this is my last update to close this chapter, as so many of you have followed and supported me through this ordeal. It's been over 8 months since my first post and 6 since filing for divorce, and I'm relieved to say the divorce was finalized last week. The process was tougher than my lawyer predicted, as Emma wavered, even after agreements, before challenging various terms. But we reached a deal that works for all. We're sharing custody, with Sophie and Liam staying with me weekdays and spending weekends with Emma, which seems to suit the kids so far. Telling the kids about the divorce was one of the hardest conversations I've faced. We were honest, explaining Mom had feelings for someone else, and we couldn't fix our differences. Sophie initially struggled, blaming me for not forgiving Emma, but she's since accepted that some things can't be repaired with apologies. Liam was more confused, asking if he could make us love each other again, which broke my heart. Both are seeing a counselor specializing in divorce, and they're coping better than I hoped, given how their world has changed. Emma used the kids to guilt me into reconsidering, telling them how sad she was living alone or missing our family, and for a while, Sophie asked daily if we could reunite. I had tough talks with them about how parents' choices can hurt families, and though we love them, we can't stay married. I balanced honesty with preserving their bond with their mother, a delicate line I'm still navigating. Emma spiraled for months post-divorce. She struggled to find work after her firing, and losing both David and our marriage hit hard. She called me repeatedly, sobbing and asking to try again, and I had to reiterate that too much had happened to go back. About 3 months ago, she landed a new job and seemed steadier professionally and personally. She stopped mentioning reconciliation, easing co-parenting. The kids have settled into our new routine, and though they miss our old family, they're thriving in their own ways. I've been rebuilding my life, learning who I am as a single dad. Therapy, started 4 months ago, has helped me process this and trust my instincts again. I realized I'd spent so much time questioning my fairness that I overlooked how egregious Emma's actions were, intent aside. I'm not dating, focusing on my kids and healing, but I'm optimistic about finding love someday with someone who truly values me. Thank you to everyone who supported me through this nightmare. To others in similar pain reading this, know you can emerge stronger, even when it feels impossible.